they get on the internet, and ultimately I'm able to find them or meet up with them. And in a lot of cases, I've actually helped people out, gotten them jobs, gotten them situated. Because you got to dig. When you leave the international base, besides losing all contact with your family and friends and basically anybody that you know in your life, you have no money. You have no credit. Most staff that work there do not even have a driver's license. I mean, there's no reason for you to drive anywhere. You work, you live there, you work there, you never leave. So when a person like that leaves, it's very hard for them to get on their feet. And I have talked to people, and like I talked to a guy a few months back who had left about a year ago, and he said that when I left, we thought, it could never get any worse. And that's always what you think. Every year that would go by, well, you know what, at least it can't get any worse. It can only get better from here because this is the lowest of the low that we could possibly experience. And he said that from 2005 till 2007, it got markedly worse. So it's literally one of those things that when you're there, you think, it's got to get better. It just can't go on like this forever. And I started thinking that in probably the year 2000. I thought, you know what, it's got to get better. It just can't keep going like this. Until in 2005, I realized it's never going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And all of these things that are being done, I mean, when you're there, you're there to help people. And the whole reason that you're there, that anyone is there in Scientology or in the Sea organization, is because they have a internal urge to help other people. That's it. So when you see all these things happening and people being treated like this, it totally goes against the grain of what you're there for. And sooner or later, I think a lot of these people are just gonna leave, and more and more of these stories will come out, and more of these different things. Like Dave Miscavige in 2003, he instituted a rule that all staff at the Int Base facility have to call Tom Cruise sir. Okay, now Tom Cruise is a public Scientologist. He's a parishioner. Some of these people that have been in the Sea organization at the Int Base have been in the Sea Org for 30 years, dedicated their life. And the only person that they have to call sir is someone who's senior in rank to them. But now, this new guy, Tom Cruise, he garners the title of sir. And if you don't call him sir, you might get away with calling him Mr. Cruise if the situation deemed that you couldn't just say sir. But if you called him Tom or TC, that's it, man. You were in trouble. And people actually did get in trouble for calling him Tom. And it was made a big deal of, like blah-de-blah called Mr. Cruise Tom today. And that person was made an example of. So, I mean, it's just things like that are just like, what job security do you have if you've been in the Sea organization for 30 years and a movie star can come along and suddenly he's senior in position than you, and when he hasn't dedicated nearly as much as his life to doing what you're doing, that kind of thing. And
you worked. I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You worked with Tom Cruise quite, regularly.
Well, no, I didn't actually work with him. What had happened was in the early 90s, when he first became a Scientologist, he had to get what's called training. He had to do his training to become an auditor. And while you do your training, then you also get auditing, and you kind of go back and forth. Well, in order to do that, you need to basically get somebody who hasn't had any auditing. And in the early 90s, I had very little auditing, if any. So I was the perfect candidate for Tom Cruise. So he actually audited me while he did his training for his auditor training. So I got to know him then. But in the mid-90s, when he got up to OT3, he left the church. He was not being a Scientologist. And even during those times,
wasn't he?
Well, he basically thought it was complete bullshit. He read all the stuff
about the wall of fire, right?
Yeah, he got to all that Xenu stuff, and he was like, I'm out of here. And he left. And literally, when he was in Scientology, though, several Scientologists were kind of implanted into his staff network, his assistants and his people, basically people that helped him run his career. And they were Scientologists. So when he became, basically upset or, whatever with Scientology, these people stayed with him. And they were basically the eyes and ears for David Miscavige on when they were going to be able to get Tom Cruise back into Scientology. So for many years, Tom never, ever came back to the int base to do anything. Just we never heard of him. We never saw him. Dave,
was that when he was married to Nicole?
Absolutely. And Dave would...
So it was during that time.
Totally. And Dave would comment regularly about how much of an out-ethics person Tom Cruise was. Because he's just off with Nicole, and Nicole does whatever Nicole wants, and Nicole doesn't want anything to do with Scientology. And anyway, the facts surrounding him getting back into Scientology are very speculative, but from all that I know, basically the church seized upon the fact that Nicole had gotten pregnant, and that Tom, up until that point, was not able to have children whatsoever. So obviously, her being pregnant was a major faux pas for her, and that she was and that she basically had been, cheating. And then,
okay.
So then, out of nowhere, like literally out of nowhere, Tom Cruise divorces Nicole Kidman, completes OT4 in the same week, and now, out of nowhere, he's the most dedicated Scientologist in the whole world. Just like overnight. He's with Dave all the time, and it was just like, it was bizarre. It was bizarre to people that worked at the int base. It was like 10 years this guy's gone, and all of a sudden, he just shows up out of nowhere, and now he's just a fanatic. And he's claiming that he's been in Scientology for, 15, 20 years. All this stuff, and you're just like, what the hell, man? Where did that come from?
It's a lie. So, all right, so let me see if I can sort of summarize this. Nicole comes into his life, and he goes through OT3. He says, this stuff's a bunch of BS, because, honestly, the whole Xenu story sounds like a load of BS. I'm not even talking about the tech. I'm not even, I don't know enough about the tech to even slam it. So we'll just say the tech's A-okay, but the whole Xenu story is BS. So Tom sees this. Nicole's not into Scientology. Her dad's, a clinical psychologist, and she's a Catholic. They're just not into it. She gets pregnant, although you and I know, because, we're well aware, that was Tom's baby she was pregnant with. She saved the placenta. I talked to Andrew Morton about this, just for this purpose of when they got divorced. So she had her little ace in the hole, which unfortunately is sick that she had to have it, but there it was. And so they seized on this opportunity of Tom Cruise, getting his wife pregnant, like that's something awful, and impugning Nicole Kidman's reputation as being, a cheater, which she's emphatically denied, and I just don't buy it, because I think even to this day she still says nice stuff about Tom.
Well, yeah, even when they did get the divorce, Tom, the only thing that Tom would say was, she knows what she did.
Exactly, which I think is sick.
That's the only statement that's ever been made on why they got a divorce was, she knows what she did. That's it.
That could be anything. That could be, she didn't buy into Scientology. She got bigger than I was. Who knows what it was? But it implies she did something, to some sort of infidelity or, betrayal